want to introduce to you Andreanecia Morris from New Orleans, who's the Executive Director of HousingNOLA. You can see her bio here. And a recent graduate. She just graduated this summer. And welcome, Andreanecia, and thank you for agreeing to participate in this. I wonder if you could start by just telling a little bit about, we see a little bit about your really terrific work here. And I had the advantage of actually having known Andreanecia and worked with her a little bit before she started the program. So that was an extra bonus. But you just do a short introduction and tell us what interested you about the program. Why did you could have picked a number of programs? What particularly interested you about the Masters in Community Development at the Carsey School?
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for having me. This was an opportunity that I wanted to take advantage of because I hadn't seen a master's level program, an advanced degree program, so tailored to what it is that I want to do. And this program is geared towards mid-career professionals. I'm a Gen Xer. And so when I graduated from college, my generation was a generation that still was being told we needed to go out and get jobs as soon as we got out of college, unless we knew for certain that we needed an advanced degree. And that you needed to start earning money, right, to pay back student debt, or just really to contribute and take care of yourself. And as and also this wasn't my path. There wasn't a community development program. There wasn't a housing program. I mean, it's there's almost an embarrassment of riches now when it comes to planning and real estate development. But this community development is still a field of study that is not as well populated, and it should be, and it needs to be. And we're living through that now. What we've gone through just in the last 12 months in this country, these are community development crises that have gone unaddressed for generations, and it's time that these kinds of programs be established. And so I was glad to find one. I didn't want to just get a master's degree to have some extra letters after my name. I wanted to do something that would enhance my work, and that's why I chose this opportunity.
Thanks, Andreanecia. So let's talk about your project a little bit. You've worked in housing now for a number of years. Housing's obviously a key part of community development. Can you tell us a little bit about what your project was and how it tied to your work?
So I didn't come into the program with any preconceived notions about what I was going to study, what my project was going to be. I really wanted to listen and to experience it. And in the course of the classroom work, I was challenged by the instructors for the capstone projects to think about a problem that that affected my work, but that I hadn't had the time or the luxury of working on. So that's how I came up with the idea of looking at cost burden, literally how we define housing cost burden in New Orleans. Does that definition work? And it's something that we've struggled with, right? We routinely have conversations here in New Orleans. I had one yesterday, as a matter of fact, with one of our agency partners, the Redevelopment Authority, about sustainability and how much can the family and the household pay, and to make sure that they can sustain the opportunity. And we look at this metric, that 30% rule, and it's not really based in economics. It's not really based in any kind of analysis. It's just there. So why is that number there? And so not simply, and what the capstone project allowed me to do is not just kind of barrel towards what I thought the conclusion was, which is we need to change this number, right? It's let's review this. Let's think about how it came to be. Let's look at the consequences. Let's look at the impact, and take our time on this, which is, and this is how systemic change happens, right? It would be really good if we could just snap our fingers and fix some of these problems. If we don't understand how we got here, we can't fix these problems. And so the capstone, I think it's not a luxury. It is an amazing opportunity to drill down deeply on something that you have been thinking about, that you've been curious about, and you're given the tools. And again, these may be things that you've done in the past. I've certainly done a logic model before. Jolan has his very specific way of doing it, but there's a skill that looking at your work differently is helpful. Even if you're going to go back to doing it the way you were doing before you got in this program, looking at this through other prisms, I think is very, very useful.
So there's a follow-up question, and I should mention for those who didn't look in the chat, you can type your questions in the chat. We also unmuted, so if you want to jump in, you can do that. But there's a question, Andreanecia. Did you start your project immediately when you started the program at UNH?
So the way the programs, the way the classes are set up, the first class is project design and development. So we're talking about, and like I said, I didn't come into it with any notions. The cost burden analysis, these were conversations we were having with my work, but it wasn't anything that we were committed to. And so I went through, we were sitting in the classes, we got asked the questions about what did we want to work on, had a number of ideas. And that's also part of this process is you're workshopping ideas. You may fall in love with an idea and be able to make it work, or you may go through multiple ideas until you finally settle on one. And then you start working. And again, there's support for that to help you design and develop a strategy. And I'm still working on my project. I graduated this year when we set up the design, and it's allowable and it's possible to design a project that you're not going to complete inside of your term and still graduate, right? Because as long as there is a strategy to deal with that and a reason for that, and you meet your coursework obligations, you can continue your research after you finish your degree.
So as a follow-up to that, Andreanecia, you talked a little bit about workshopping your idea. It gets to the point of a cohort program. Can you tell a little bit about your cohort and how that worked and how your fellow students contributed to the discussions and your project and other academic experience?
So that was really great. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we're not sure if this is going to be able to be the same way. And Michael and Robin and the rest of the team are working very, very diligently to replicate that. The camaraderie that was promoted by us being there in person with each other and sitting in classes with each other, you can do that online. And I know for a fact that this first COVID cohort, they are actually building similar relationships. But you want to do that because you want to hear different people's perspectives when we're sharing ideas. We are asked to comment on other people's ideas. We are encouraged to comment on other people's ideas. We're encouraged to sometimes challenge each other respectfully. And we're also encouraged to support each other, to recognize what's going on. And so we were able to, we have a WhatsApp group that we still check in with each other on and chat and ask questions about assignments, but also just check in and see how people are doing. Particularly during these very, very trying times. So I would, your cohort members are going to be, hopefully you're going to develop friendships that you can take out of this program, but you will have brothers and sisters in arms during this process. And they are incredibly helpful and necessary to get through this program.
Yeah, I should mention that the post-COVID cohort that started this summer actually is organized informal, regular meetings online that don't even have to do with a particular course, just to sort of hang out and talk about things generally. So as a way of maintaining what you talked about. Andreanecia, I don't know if you've taken online courses before or not, but for a lot of people, if they'll be joining this program, it'll be the first time. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because a lot of people are concerned with, many people have taken, but many haven't, and they're worried about is online an effective way of learning?
So I hadn't been in formal education for since I graduated from college. And I mean, I've done NeighborWorks training, and I've done a couple of postgraduate certification programs. Nothing like this. And it was certainly remarkable to see how much education has changed since I was involved in it. I don't have kids, so I wasn't up to the support really that like, for example, the Canvas application, which is how we communicate with professors, post assignments, things are there. The discussion boards, that was a revelation. I'm kind of a tech geek, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. But it's also open to all students. It's how kids go to school now. But it also helps online students, I think, even more so. And one of the things that was particularly, I mean, it was just the things aligned and said I needed to be in this program at this time. I'm like a Zoom expert now because we also, Canvas is the interface, but Zoom is how we connect and, how we do our classes and while we're doing online. And I learned how to do all of that before the pandemic set in. So, I was ahead of the game. So people who have now experienced COVID and are working and they're able to work from home, or they have meetings where they participate remotely, you've already been given the biggest training piece, right? Knowing how to participate effectively, how to keep yourself engaged on a Zoom call, how to keep yourself energized, and how to take what you need from it. But because that's going to be the big, that was the big one. I'd never really used Zoom before, but it was all made available to us, training programs and tech tutorials and things like that. And y'all walked us through all of this. You didn't just say, go figure it out. You're grown-ups. There were opportunities for people to learn how to check in and overview the various interfaces. It's all very supportive, I think. And the other big thing I was geeked out about was getting access to a real academic library again, which from the research perspective was amazing. I actually miss it. I get to talk to Robin and Michael. I can email them if I want to. I don't have access to the library anymore, and I miss that.
Yeah, so that gets into a question, Andreanecia. For many people, they'll be coming back to school like you did after a fairly large break, and often are a little nervous when they come, especially about if they're taking courses where they don't have much experience. So we see sometimes people are concerned about, oh my gosh, I have to take a community development and economics course. I'm going to have to deal with statistics and new programs. I'm going to have to take a financial management course. I don't really understand balance sheets and operating statements and things like that. I wonder if you could tell us what was challenging about the program and strategies that you and your cohort members developed to deal with those challenges, whether it was the substance of courses that were particularly new or challenging material, or even the fact that your colleagues like you, I mean, we're talking about people who often have very demanding jobs and family responsibilities, and a lot of juggling has to go on. What did you find as the biggest challenges, and how did you develop strategies to deal with those?
So the balance is going to be the big thing, and you've got to be clear about what you can and can't do, and that is one of the genius parts of how the program is designed. The summer courses really give you the opportunity to test your tolerance and to figure out what you can and cannot do. If you and at that point you can start making some decisions about the fact that, well, maybe I can't do two classes a semester, particularly in the fall and the spring. I know I left the summer course last year resolving never again to do 4 classes in the summer. And I said, oh, I'm never doing this again. And that's what we did. I worked with our academic advisor to lay out a schedule that kept me on course, but that also, didn't keep the pressure up because it was too hard. It was too much. And you've got to give yourself that room. You've got to be honest about it, right? With your advisors, with the staff, and with the professors. Let them know what's going on. You may have to drop a class. You may have to make changes. Again, this is your experience, and you have the power to customize it. The coursework was all pretty familiar to me, but I know I've had conversations with cohort partners who haven't seen some things before, and I think that's being familiar with some of these concepts can be as problematic as unfamiliarity, right? Because if you have a fixed idea in your mind about like a logic model and how to lay out financial documents, it may be hard when your professor is saying, I want you to do X in this way, and you know a better way, right? But it's the same advice I would give to somebody who'd never seen this before. Listen to the instructions and think about it from the assignment. Like, what you're being asked to do is evaluate this and to determine if it's something that can work for you and work in your chosen path, career path, or how it fits inside your chosen career path, rather than what you know already and how what you want to do, the way you want to do it is better. And so that's a conversation I've had with some of my mentees, saying, hey, I get you know how to do this. The professor wants to know if you can do it the way that they want you to do it. And also being exposed to data analysis tools that are critical to the kind of work that we do. But not everyone has the benefit of having access to data analysis at that level. You'll get the experience of it, you get to understand it. You may be fortunate enough to bring it back to your work and use the software on your job, or at least you can be familiar enough with it so that if you do run across this that kind of work again, you can participate. And again, this is real growth and development opportunities.
Well, thank you for joining us. On the chat, you see the email address for both me and for Robin. So if questions come up after, please feel free to contact us. And Andreanecia, thank you for taking time out of, I know it's a really busy schedule. Appreciate your taking the time. Thanks again for joining us. Thank you, everybody, and hope to be in touch if you're interested. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.